There you are. Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. In fact, I might.
Nice.
Yeah, okay. I think we're good to go. All right.
Cool, thanks for checking out the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like I said, it's not my genre, so I don't know. I
Yeah,
hope that the feedback that I'm giving
figured you
is,
were really excited to get another idle game in the queue.
it's I don't get them that often, but yeah, one thing I was gonna do really quickly. Oh, that's because Kill Systems is the sort of username.
Yeah.
I just figured if we were going to discuss the game that I'd create a highlight of this, so it just triggered my hotkey to set a start timer for that.
Nice.
Yeah, so I guess if we could get into like what is your objective in designing this game?
That's a big question. It's been a long time coming, long time working on this project. Originally, it started out that I was frustrated with giving up on project after project, and I decided to make Pong. And then and then it turned into this like several years later we're at this stage of Pong. Um I don't know, I just wanted to make something cool. It's a hobby project for me, so I don't intend to monetize it or anything, but um we talked a little bit in DMs that something that interests me a lot about making games is the variety.
Mhm.
I think there's like a lot of variety. There's like a broad problem space in designing a game like this.
Yeah, I see. So if it's sort of like um, a way for you to kind of tackle different aspects of like UI design challenges and balance and progression, is that what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially balance and progression. Those two things are really difficult for me, particularly in a game like this that involves, well, like the idle format is pretty grindy. It involves a lot of time sunk into like exploring upgrade trees and unlocking content, things like that. The challenge of trying to balance that stuff, um, having like very limited free time, and I want to spend as much of that time as I can making the game instead of playing through it over and over again.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's been tricky.
So in that sense, like, are you generally a fan of the idle game like genre? Like, was there something specific that drew you towards creating a game like this?
Yeah, I'm somewhat a fan. I'm not like a super fan. There were a lot of things when I brought this game to like audiences of idle games and incremental games. There were a lot of things that they were unhappy about that I never would have even considered. I was, I guess, a casual fan of idle type games, and it seemed like there was an active enough audience looking for those kind of games that I thought it was going to be easy to get feedback. So actually, the first version of this game that I released ages ago, I posted to the Incremental Games subreddit and actually got a lot of great feedback. A lot of people willing to sit down and spend time playing the game and exploring through the upgrade trees and the content, the balance and stuff, and give me their thoughts, which is what I saw as one of the biggest challenges just starting out. It's like, how do you get that group of people willing to play your game and tell you how it plays?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Feedback is so vital just in general, and I totally know what you mean. Like you can you can get some ways into designing a project where, hey, like we were kind of talking about this at the very beginning of the stream, where Alice was saying that she was putting off working on a tutorial because at a certain point you are going to be the only one who can effectively playtest your game because you're the only one who knows how it works. But then at a
Mm-hmm.
certain point you do have to overcome that barrier and get the game into a state where you can get it into other people's hands, see where they understand things, don't understand things, and just generally speaking, like, you built it because you think it's fun, hopefully. That is at least that is the guiding principle by which I make games. And I know that that's not necessarily true. Like games are an experience, and just being fun is not a strict necessity of every single game. But in my case, the sort of objective is I want to make something that is fun. Hi, Shitori. No, again, that's why I'm clarifying. I'm not saying that all games are supposed to be fun. I'm saying that the games that I make, I want them to be fun. And so I guess to generalize a bit more, when you put a game into someone else's hands, do they have the intended experience? Right? That is what you
Right.
are going
Yeah.
for.
Yeah,
So
that's the trick.
and I guess like from that perspective, that's why I was curious. Like, and to be fair, I don't often ask this question, but like, yeah. So why an idle game that it evolved from Pong? Um, and you say that it's like something that you're a casual fan of, but yeah, I mean, is it just a matter of it is the kind of experience that lets you experiment a lot with the kinds of design problems that you think are like fun to tinker with?
So I mentioned it started out as Pong,
Yes.
and the the genesis of the whole game started from looking at Pong and saying like, what do I wish was happening in this game of Pong? I realized that I liked Breakout more than Pong, so
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of transitioned to Breakout. And then what's fun about Breakout? What if like the ball was going super fast and bouncing all over the screen at lightning speed? That sounds really satisfying, enjoyable to look at in like a lava lamp sense. Um, I bet I could make an idle game where it's just like Breakout, but the ball goes infinitely fast.
Mm.
Um, so I built that. That was what I initially dropped to that audience of idle and incremental players.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got pretty good feedback, made a few changes, and then put the game down for about a year. Because I had kind of seen through to my goal at that point. Like I had made a thing that had that sort of enjoyable lava lamp sort of vibe. Um, then over the course of a year or so of not touching it, not thinking about it, I decided that I wanted to do something more with it. I had some sort of like artistic aspirations for like themes that I wanted to explore around the concept of idle and incremental games in general and how that relates to the human experience. So I ended up uh, starting to dig in again, kind of in earnest. I've been doing that for about a year now. So about a year of like turning it into what you see right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that really motivates me at this point is making this part of the game feel really engaging in the way that good idle and incremental games are engaging, and then exploring that feeling, that like enjoyment that we get as humans of like min-maxing and watching numbers go up, um, as sort of a metaphor for someone who uh, works like a meaningless job.
Mm.
So like the fiction of this game is that you're completing these gigs, right? You're like doing this hacking job that's kind of like, hopefully it's satisfying to look at and enjoyable to click the buttons and watch the numbers fly around and stuff, but there's in some sense not a lot of substance to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so sort of pairing that with this idea of being someone who's just working their day-to-day job, working in the gig economy, that kind of vibe. And then like the experience of that person sort of breaking out of this life, this like perspective on things. So gameplay wise, that's like you start in this idle incremental game kind of experience, and then someone spoiled it in chat a little earlier, but at some point here in the game, say after the first 4 or 5 gigs that you complete, the game prompts you to leave
Uh-huh.
the computer, and at that point you kind of get an experience more of like interacting with the real world, and there's like more of a variety of things to do outside of the computer. So it's like this idea of someone starting off in this position, in this kind of worldview, and gradually unfolding into a broader experience and broader perspective, that kind of thing.
So in that sense, I mean, I have no idea how Alice managed to get through. You said like 4 or 5 gigs that quickly. Um, whereas I'm still
I think
stuck
it's
on like,
actually you're not actually locked out of that experience right now,
oh,
but if you
okay,
press S on your keyboard, you
oh,
can sort of leave and go do other things. There's
I
not
see.
there's not much going on out here yet at this point. This is like the stuff that I'm most actively working on still.
Oh.
Um, Something that I actually wanted to get your feedback on. I
Hmm.
saw in the Discord that you had some trouble with feeling nauseous with funny camera movement. Um, so if you wouldn't mind, after you've had your fill of this part of the game,
Hmm.
there's a sequence with some funny camera movement that I'd appreciate if you could try out.
Oh no, I'm a little worried. A little worried. Um,
Me too. So if you see
uh,
that bed in the corner there,
mhm.
um, if you walk over to it and press
Yeah, let
um,
me
the
just.
N key.
Yeah, N. Okay.
No rush on that though.
Yeah, let's try. Okay, so we go to bed. We wake up. It's
Oh,
not
this
even
section has audio actually, just to warn you.
okay. This is interesting. What is this made with, by the way?
This is browser native, all like WebGL and all that stuff.
Okay. I mean, it's very funny to have like, what is it? Whoa, hello, E. Huh? Okay. I think not having mouse control over the camera is throwing me a little bit. Um,
Hmm.
were you concerned about like the like view bobbing, or
Yeah.
I do find it a little strange that when you go into that dream sequence, you have more control, but then when you're here, you have this sort of like very strict, like 90-degree rotation kind of limit.
Hmm.
Is there a reason for that difference?
Yeah, it's not clear from what's here. It's sort of like a thematic element of um, like those dream sequences. Their intention is that there's a variety of those, and the gameplay in them is quite different than the rest of the game. So it's sort of like a palate cleanser kind of experience. So that one is similar but distinct from walking around the room here.
Hmm.
Other ones are just fully 2D little experiences, or they don't even involve like player motion. Some of them they're just sort of a puzzle that's presented on the screen or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that encouraging a variety of gameplay, like, then the only thing I can say is don't bury the lead. Like if there's
Hmm.
more to this game than just this, what I'm seeing here, uh, like how do you actually realize that you can press S to like step away from the game in the first place?
So the intention, I'm not sure how far you've progressed through the gigs at this point, but the intention is um, so we have that fiction of you're like a gig worker
Hmm.
doing these hacks for money. And the idea is that you do sort of a day's worth of gigs, and then your player character says something like, "Oh, I'm sleepy. I should go to bed," something like that, and you
Yeah.
get a UI prompt suggesting WAST. And then you go take a nap, and you come back, and then you've got like another day's worth of work ready for you. But none of that's in the game yet, since all of this stuff outside the terminal here is still pretty work in progress.
Right. And I mean, I think that you might even try to suggest that like the player do that after the very first one of these jobs. Like even if you then wake up the next day and you do like three or more jobs before you necessarily um, go back to bed the following night. But again, it just comes back to that idea of like, don't bury the lead, because the fact that this is much more than just this screen that we're seeing right now, or at least if it's going to be much more, then yeah, I mean, I would just want to make sure that people are aware of that, because that's what this is to me at least. I again don't play many of these idle games,
Mhm.
but to me that is like a defining identity of the fact that this is not just a UI click the things, like that there is a more like brand story that is making some sort of greater commentary.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a tricky balance. Like you want to have that feeling of like reveal. That's really
Mm-hmm.
exciting for players that I've heard from who've stumbled on that. There was a way in a previous build of the game to sort of finish all of the content and then escape the computer essentially. So hearing from those people that they would play the game for 10 or 20 hours and then suddenly there's this big reveal, that's like a really satisfying thing. But then on the other hand, yeah, you don't want people who aren't very interested in clicking the buttons to leave before they see the important stuff. I feel like has kind of been yeah, push it forward. So the design now is um like getting the hook in much earlier than
Mm-hmm.
it did previously. But then maybe to avoid giving it up too soon, like giving it up immediately, maybe just sort of sprinkle that kind of suggestion in like the marketing material, something like that, like in the screenshots on itch, or if I was going to make a trailer, have like a few little clips that suggest like a variety of things outside of what they would expect.
Yeah, because again, the um, if you didn't have a interactive sequence on the very first night, like the first night, you literally just like um, or even something as mundane as if like the game actually starts with you waking up from bed and then you go over to your terminal and start work. That hints that there is a
Mhm.
purpose to that without necessarily getting into the fact that you are going to experience more. Um, so there's kind of a funny effect if you uh, if somebody has to like pay money for a game, then they kind of have this investment to like, okay, why did I pay for this? What is um, they're almost like more motivated to dig into it. You know, you did mention that there are clearly some fans of this who dug into it and played for a good long time, regardless of that. But it's certainly something that I I can't say I've got like numbers or concrete data on this necessarily, but I feel like there is the kind of person who is like casually browsing idle games, and they try something
Mhm.
for a couple minutes and then like, oh, okay, that's neat, you know, and then they move on. And it's those people that I would be sad if they missed out on not realizing that there was more to this game. Is the fact that it is free, you try it out, you give it a little bit of your time, you think you've got the idea of it, and if it hasn't quite hooked you, then you move on.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of people who could be fans who might walk away not realizing what's actually on offer.
And so I'm just going to address something really quickly in the chat. This is not the first time this has happened, but uh, Imvuta, this is a feedback for games and game prototypes, not for audio. People have like, I think three or four people have like signed on thinking that this is a feedback for like music before. You don't want my opinions on music. I do not have the vocabulary to describe that. So I really appreciate you saying hello, and I wish you the best of luck. But yeah, that's not
You
no
could try a
worries, no
new
worries.
format.
No, I have tried. Like on previous occasions, people have set stuff in, and I can just be like, I think it's cool. I like the part where the sound. No, again, I just have no vocabulary to describe those kind of things. So, um, yeah. So sorry. Getting back to that other point, then, um, that's the I know what you mean about like trying to walk that fine line between you don't want to give away the fact that there is this big reveal. Like, pretty famously, the first level of Halo feels like just another corridor shooter, and then you step out into level two, and it's this big, relatively open, uh, like level design, which
Mhm.
felt like quite revolutionary for the time. And the that worked, because people had bought the game and they had some sense of like, oh, there was some investment, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I'm just thinking like, how long does the average idle player play a game before they say, okay, that was cool, and then move on? Um, that's something that you
Yeah.
might know
What's the
better if
attention span there?
exactly, yeah. Um, Giving people a clear sense of progress is something like even when you were trying out my card game, um you made the comment that it feels like I'm just getting cards at random. um I'm not like you didn't have the concrete feeling that there was a physical deck that existed. um
Mhm.
and that level of abstraction was an issue. Like I need to make um I need to make that part of the game more concrete. I need to give feedback on that. And in general, like in a progression sense, this is why I was saying, like, oh, having your current objective, like I need X out of so many personal files visible on screen somewhere would be nice. I know you can like check an inventory on the main screen, but maybe having access to that here would be cool as well. And seeing like a like quest complete 5 out of 5. Um, because I know that you can make progress on multiple quests at a time. Um,
Mhm.
Maybe even having like a the ability to freely boot into this and like minimize it, check your quests, complete ones. Like, is there a reason that this needs to be broken up into discrete sessions that you have to play through the whole thing before you can go back to the other screen?
Right. Technically, no. I like that thought that you want some you want some reminder of like what open gigs you have, what your needs are for those gigs, whether or not you've met them. I wonder. Yeah, I'm thinking about how to integrate that. But yeah, it sounds like a good idea. A lot of this stuff with gigs and the way that you collect loot and the kit and stuff is actually based on Tarkov. And I think in Tarkov, there's a way to track like miscellaneous junk that you need for for your different quests. Um, I wonder if I can borrow some lessons there.
Yeah, so I guess that would just be the general feedback I have is that if there's more to this game, how can you hint at it without giving it away completely? And how could you work in a way that allows you to like obviously this entire process is very abstract. The idea of like having a hacker session, like maybe you even maybe the detection is something that can happen if you're not paying attention to it, and you need to like crack this open and hit disconnect before they get you. Otherwise, I don't know, is that a game over, or is there a penalty, or is there something to be um I'm halfway through saying this and realizing I'm not sure if there is such a thing as a game over in an idle game.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's not really a failure state, but you do want to have some kind of punishment. I actually recently got some feedback along those lines. I thought it would be a great idea. It's something actually I thought about a lot when I was introducing this detection bar on the left.
Hmm.
Um, was so part of my goal is increasing kind of the tension as that detection meter starts filling up. You can see I've done that visually. I
Yeah.
attempted to do that visually. Um, but there's another gameplay element I thought a lot about adding, which is some kind of disconnect button that the player has to engage.
Hmm.
Um, but in some sense, they would be like sort of playing chicken with the detection meter. Some kind of like a delay after clicking the button, maybe. Like you click the button and it initiates a detection or a disconnection sequence. And if the sequence doesn't complete before the detection runs out, then maybe you're penalized by losing everything that you collected during the run, something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Um,
Now, to me, as a non-idle game player, that sounds interesting. That sounds like, ooh, yeah, a little bit of risk reward. That classic game essence,
right.
as Masahiro Sakurai would put it. That feeling of you could like to be like playing this game optimally. You could be doing things in another window which could be occupying your attention, and you've got this going in the background, or maybe even off to the side of the screen, and then it's a view that you can expand so you can kind of keep an eye on it. Like you don't have to like close out a window entirely, but having the option to fulfill jobs, keep a session logged in and going, or needing to like initiate a terminate to avoid getting caught, um, all while being in the grander scope of knowing that there is more to this game than just this interface that we're seeing. Again, that's I know it's a very significant change to consider all of those different things. But yeah, I
No,
mean, does that?
I think that's a great piece of feedback. There was um, in relation to sort of the outer world, the world outside the computer. There was like a my intent was to sort of have this running on your computer. Meanwhile, you're having to walk around doing other things, dealing with other puzzles or things that might be going on outside. So extending that into the computer itself, I don't think is too dramatic of a design change.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear that I've. It's always something I'm trying to be careful of is like, and that's why I wanted to start with asking like what your intentions with this were in the first place, because like I don't want to come in and say, oh, just make it more something that I would like. It's like, no, no, no. I want you to make this something that you would like more, and if I can help you reach that point, that is exactly what I'm here for. Those are the conversations I want to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it.
So, yeah, as long as if anything I've said sounds interesting, go for it. If anything I've said is just like that's not at all what I wanted, then away with it. Don't worry about it.
No, that was a lot of great feedback.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We're going to move on to the next game by Cabez. But yeah, if you do end up implementing some of these changes, you want some feedback, more um, another round of feedback down the line, feel free to resubmit anytime.
Great. Thanks so much for checking it out.
Sure thing. All right. Bye for now.
See ya.